friends. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to share with you a fun blending video today using the Thankful Garden stamp set. That's a new stamp set, dies, masks, DSP, a whole suite of fun in my online store. So if you saw last week's video with my special guest, Brandy Cox, we used this same suite and showed a whole bunch of techniques. So if you missed that, make sure you watch that because it is amazing. So today I'm going to share with you some tips and tricks using the masks that come within this set and our awesome blending brushes. It's going to be all kinds of fun, and it's even a fun fold. So it's like two power-packed fun things in one. So as always, I have a free PDF tutorial for you that you can download on my website at stampinqueenbee.com. It's got the supply list, it's got the measurements and all the step-by-step instructions, plus some fun photos so you can really see how this card comes to life. All right, well, let's get started because I have so much to share with you today. Okay, so we've got our card here. Let me show you this super awesome fun fold. So it's what we like to call a card within a card. And so we're just going to flip through that. It's almost like a little mini book, right? It's like a card within a card. It's still mailable. It's thin, right? So you can still mail it just like normal. And we're going to do lots of fun blending using those masks. So here is the stamp set. It's that Thankful Garden, those beautiful images and lots of great sentiments. Here is the die set. The dies do cut out these full images, and we've got some standalone dies that we will use today. Those use some fun sprigs. And then we've got this die here, which cuts out this flower individual. And then this die here will actually cut out a section of this flower, this hydrangea flower, so you can actually pop those up and create some fun texture with that. So I love those as part of this set. And they also have with them in the bundle these fun masks. So you might also call these stencils, but we're going to use those today to create lots of color on these beautiful flowers. So let's get started with our card-like base. Let's get this mechanism started here. So I'm just going to grab my liquid glue because we're going to need that today. And so I've already pre-cut and scored two of what I'm calling our card bases. So we're going to have an outside card base and an inside card base. And we're just going to put them together. So all those measurements, you don't need them right now, but I have them on that free PDF for you. So all we're going to do is we're going to glue this inside card base into our outer card base. So I'm just adding some of that liquid glue there. And we're just centering this so top and bottom are equal there. We have a good border on the outside. We'll just give that a little bit of a back rub. And that is the easy bones of our fun fold today. So I love fun folds, but what I really love is easy fun folds that just pack a good wow, right? So now we're going to bring in some of that beautiful designer series paper. So it is called Lovely Garden. So let me bring this in to share with you. You can see all my fun scraps here, but I love this beautiful paper. You can see we're going to use this print today. In one of the cards that I shared on last week's video, we used this beautiful green paper. I think that's my favorite. Although they're all so beautiful, how can you just pick one, right? Here is the DSP that I used on last week's video when I fussy cut out with some paper snip scissors each of these images, and they make beautiful layering pieces with that. And I just love all of the back sides of these pieces because they're really good neutrals, right? With the stripes, we're going to use some of those today. The checkerboard, We're gonna use this print to do some die cutting today, and just an easy, nice, fresh freesia background, some leaves and some yellow with Daffodil Delight. So all kinds of beautiful prints in this paper. So let me bring in these parts and pieces. I already did pre-cut all of this for us, and we're just gonna layer this up. So with today's card, you can see I'm just gonna start gluing all of these pieces to each other. So we've got some basic black here, and we're just gonna glue these to this panel here. And we're just gonna glue this, center that right on the front. Love our green glue because it gives us that bit of wiggle room, right? So let me just go ahead and keep on gluing here. Okay, so we're gonna put that on there, hold it there for a second. And this paper really gives us that super wow, right? We'll take our next piece here. Love this background. You'll see this in one of our next pieces that we're gonna glue on the inside here. So we're just centering this. So while this card does have lots of layers, I think that's kind of what helps it to stand apart, right? But it's not a complicated card, it's just got lots of pieces. And so this is the kind of card I like to make in what I call an 80-20 rule. So 20% of the time I might make one of these kind of cards that have lots of parts and pieces. And 80% of the time I'm gonna make just a beautiful card that is just a regular fold, right? So I love them, but they are more time consuming, right? So that's why I love my little 80-20 rule. So we're just adding that piece to the inside of that flap, and then we're gonna add our next piece just in order here. And I do have all of these pictures of the insides and where everything goes and all these different measurements all on my blog. And that's, let me put that up there for you at stampinqueenbee.com, so you'll be able to download this for free as a PDF. Super, super easy for you, and it's got everything you need right there. I love a good PDF, and it's just my little thank you to you for watching me, liking my videos, commenting. I read each and every one. So we're just putting some basic black here on the inside. And I really do. I read each and every one of your comments, and I so enjoy them all. Okay, so now I'm just gonna add our inside layer here, which is just some basic white. And we've got that right inside. And I love this just real simple black border because it just makes it pop, right? So that is the bones and pieces of layering all that DSP into our card. So easy peasy and so very beautiful, right? All right, so the next part of our card is we're gonna create a fun frame. So let me bring in our example here. We're gonna create this fun frame. And so I've already pre-done a lot of this die cutting for us and embossing, but I really want to show you how that process works. So how I create that is I started with just a piece of basic white. So we've already just got this cut in the rectangle that we want to use. And then I brought in another fun die set that is quickly becoming one of my very favorites, and that is this Textured Notes rectangle die set. And it's got all these fun rectangles, even one for a sentiment here. I used this piece, which is going to be the fourth from the largest. And so what I did is I just took this, put this into the center there, used a little bit of Post-it tape to hold that on. Let me hold that up for you so you can see. And then I just ran this through my cut and emboss machine and die cut it. And so then what that created was these two pieces. So I took this piece out, which is that die that we used. I can use this on my next project, and let me just show you how beautiful up close. Look at that detail. So sort of like stitching, but some different fun designs. And then this negative piece is what we're going to actually use today. So this created what I call the frame for our card today. So let me put those aside. So once I had my frame, then I brought in another new item, which is our mini corrugated 3D embossing folder. And this beautiful corrugation. So I just stuck my frame inside that embossing folder, and I lined the bottom up here with, when you close this embossing folder, let me get close so you can see there is this black line, and so that really helps me to line things up so that my corrugation becomes straight. So I ran this through my cut and emboss machine, and what came out was my frame with all of this corrugation texture on it. Isn't that beautiful? I just love that. So I thought that was just a fun tip if you ever want to create some texture and a beautiful frame. You can use that negative piece in your card, and then that thing we cut out, that beautiful rectangle, we can use on another project, right? Okay, so we've got that, so I'll have that set aside for us. We've got our cards, we'll set those. And then I did die cut some of these leaves. So these leaves, sprigs, I cut out 4 of those. I die cut those from that designer series paper that has those leaf imprints already on it. And I think it just gives those leaves a lot of texture. You can see the back is that fresh freesia, which is also beautiful. And so we're gonna use those on our card as well. And so let me just put those aside. We'll need you need a strip of scrap, basic white. That's what we'll do our sentiment on here in a bit. But I really want to show you this blending. So let me grab our flower here. So this is that flower that is in the stamp set. I've heard it called a poppy, so we'll go with that. But it's a beautiful flower here. I think this one is my favorite image in this set. They're all beautiful though, right? And so we're gonna use this today. So I've already just stamped this on basic white using our Memento black ink, and I stamped that just to save us a bit of time today. So I'm going to bring in some Melon Mambo and some Garden Green ink, and that's what we're going to use to color in our flower here. So we will start with our Garden Green. So I'm just going to open up my ink pad here, and for this today, I'm going to show you this little tip that I learned from Sarah Douglas, our CEO. And so whenever she's using her blending brushes, she takes them and just lays them in the open part of her stamp pad. So she just keeps it open instead of closing up that lid. And then while it's resting there, right, it doesn't get on your table. I thought that was such a good little fun tip, and I have used that and love it. All right, so with our masks, there's actually 5 masks, and so 2 of those masks, or stencils you might call them, create our leaf coloring. So we're gonna use those first, and I just like to line this up and use my hand to hold it in place. You can use some Post-it tape if you want, or washi tape, or anything. Let me make sure we get this on camera. I'm gonna actually zoom in for us so that you can see. So you can see this very clearly. There we go. We'll get us real close here. Okay, so we're gonna line up our leaf again. Let me just move this out of my way so that I can get this super lined up for you. We're just gonna line up that leaf. So you can see I'm just moving it to where those black lines of our leaf are in order. And then I just put my hand there, and that's how I hold it. So I'm going to grab my ink pad here, grab a little bit of ink, and I'm actually using the larger of our blending brushes, the full size. We have a small one as well. And if you've seen me do blending videos before, I used to really love the smaller ones because they're just smaller and they were easier for me to handle. However, someone challenged me to try the big ones, and so I have done that, and I have been loving them. I actually think they give us a little bit better of a coverage and a little bit softer of a blending. So I don't know, what are your thoughts? Do you love our mini or small, I call them mini, but really they're called small blending brushes, or do you love our full-size blending brushes? What do you think? So you can see the more that I blend, the darker it will get. And I'm just kind of going a little bit darker towards the center here and a little bit lighter towards the points of our leaves. Okay, so then we're gonna remove our mask here, and we've got beautiful coloring in of those leaves. I'm gonna bring in our second leaf mask, which you can see here is the more detailed piece of this. And so you absolutely could use multiple colors, and actually I was playing lots with these and did some that are 2 and 3 colors, but I really wanted to show you how one color can make such a beautiful coloring, right? So you almost get 2 and 3 colors out of your one color. So I'm just making this super dark on here, and we're just coloring it in. Remember, you can always add more, but you can't really take it away, right? So we're just darkening these up, these detail areas here. Okay, and then we're gonna flip our mask off and reveal. Look at that beautiful dark garden green coloring on those leaves, right? You can really see that detail there. And that's all one color, but we got really 2 colors out of that one color, right? All right, so let me close up our garden green here. Move that to the side, and I'm gonna bring in now our melon mambo. So again, we're just gonna flip that open so that we can rest if we need to, our melon mambo there. Let me grab our masks. So with these flowers, they actually have 3 sets of masks. So we have the majority, right? Like the whole background here. That's what we're gonna do first. Then we have our middle kind of detail, and then we have our centers. Okay, so I'm just grabbing some melon mambo here, and I do have a different brush for each color, but you absolutely don't have to. I just don't love to wash them. I think they work better when you just leave one color on there, because the more times that you use it, the more the color soaks into the brush, and therefore your blending gets better every single time that you use it. All right, so now we're just gonna take our melon mambo and just kind of lightly go over our flowers here, and we're just giving it a coloring in of the solid part of our flowers, right? And so you can go a little bit darker kind of towards the center edges and a little bit lighter towards the outside, leaving, even if you want, you can leave a tiny bit of white up there. Okay, so that's colored in. Wow, it's already beautiful, right? All right, so then let's bring in flower mask number 2 here. And this will be kind of what I call the middle detail. And we'll just line that up. There we go. Put my hand there to hold it in place. Take our melon mambo again, so same color. And we're just going kind of circular motion, adding more of our melon mambo on top of our melon mambo, right? All right, and then we'll move our mask to reveal, wow, some beautiful detail, right? And then we'll bring in our center details, so mask number 3 here, and we will line that one right up. And how I have found to line this up is if I go for this one here and this one here, because it goes right along that detail there, and then this one goes right next to the edge. And what I found is that is what helps me line this part up, if you're having trouble. Okay, so more melon mambo on top of our melon mambo on top of our melon mambo, right? And this one we want the darkest, so you can even go over this a few times if you like. And we'll move our stencil and reveal. Look at this beautiful tri-colored flower, all using one color. But look, our one melon mambo actually gave us 3 different versions of that melon mambo on our flower. So I love, love, love that. All right, let's move this ink pad so that I do not stick my hand in it. Have you ever done that? You'll have to tell me in the comments. Do you ever get inky fingers? Stick your hands in an open stamp pad? It's not just me, right? Okay, so now we're gonna bring in that stamp set and we're gonna grab these 2 center pieces. And so I'll just grab those. There's kind of a bigger one and a smaller one. And you could leave the flower just as so, but I think when we grab some of our Memento black ink, it really livens these flowers up. So we're just going to go ahead and put those on blocks. We're gonna grab our Memento black ink here. And what I love about these is there's really no right or wrong way to add these to the centers. So see how it just gives those beautiful little black dots in the center there? The center of our flower. And then we'll do the same thing on our bigger flower there. And we've got those beautiful centers as well. So it just gives us, you know, the and then some to those flowers. All right, so we're actually gonna need to make 3 of those for our project today. So I've already done that. So we would take this piece, so pretend we did this 3 times. We have this piece, we'll run it through our die cut machine and we will get this die cut out here. So we're gonna need 1 full-size one for our project. Then we're going to take our second one and we're gonna actually fussy cut a double flower out so that we get 1 and 2, we're just taking off the leaves. So you wouldn't even need to do that part on that one if you want. So we'll need 1 full size, 1 with a double flower. And then we're gonna grab our scissors here and I'm gonna show you how I fussy cut that. So I didn't want to do that on all of them for us, but we're just gonna fussy cut this out. And you can see I'm just moving my paper. I like to fussy cut, I know you're on either team love it or hate it, right? But this, even if you don't love to fussy cut, this kind of fussy cutting is easy because there's not a ton of, you know, intricate parts to this. We're just really cutting this flower away from its stems. And so this is easy fussy cutting, right? And if you just move your paper as you're making your cuts, it is, I think, a bit easier than trying to move your scissors a ton. And you talk and fussy cut. It's kind of like when you put mascara on, right? And your mouth is wide open. Am I the only one that fussy cuts that way? It's like when you super concentrate, right? Or when I have to turn down the radio so I can see better while I'm driving. Anyone else do that? You'll have to tell me in the comments. So you can see we just fussy cut that double flower away from those leaves. You could save those leaves for another project. So we need 1 full-size one, we need 1 double fussy cut like we just did, and then we need 1 that these are separated. So we're just going to finish this fussy cut and separate these 2 right here. So with that one, we've got our smaller one die cut out. And then with this bigger one, we're gonna use this, but we're just gonna take and kind of snip this just a tad so that we got all those little extra bits off. So we've got a full-size one, a double one, and then 2 single petal flowers there. So that's what we're gonna use to put our project together. So before we get into that, we've got 1 more stamping to do with our sentiment, and then we'll put our beautiful card together. But before I share that with you, let me move these pieces to the side, and I want to show you some other blending colors that I did, because I think this really shows you all you can do with this. So here is another one where I used the same pinks, and there is some Melon Mambo in there. However, first I did a little bit of Bubble Bath, and then I did our Melon Mambo double. And you can even use the masks, the stencils, without stamping. So if you want a little bit more of a watercolor to look, you can see there's no like border detail with the Memento Black, right? So you kind of have lots of variation that you can do with those. Then I did some yellows, and so I did Lemon Lolly, Daffodil Delight, and a bit of Crushed Curry. And again, with and without those, with the stamping, right? So this is just the masks by itself, and I think it does give you that beautiful kind of watercolored look. Of course, we need some purples. I know I have a lot of purple fans that watch, and so here are some purples. We've got our Highland Heather, we've got some gorgeous grape, a bit of fresh freesia in there for our lightest color, and again with the no stamping, right, to give us a bunch of watercolor feels. So then we've got some Poppy Parade and some Calypso Coral there, and another one that is just all crushed curry. So, I mean, the possibilities are endless. Isn't that just a beautiful, that's just a beautiful right there, right? With all of these flowers. I'm like, I'm gonna make so many cards with these. It's just so fun to get all these blendings together. And you can see even in my leaves, I did some different colors with some Granny Apple Green and some Garden Green and a little bit of Lemon Lime Twist in there. So many options for blending these together. So which color is your favorite, or which color did I maybe not try that I should try? You'll have to tell me that in the comments too. All right, so let's bring in our scrap of basic white, and we're gonna grab our stamp here, You Make a Difference, because you do, just by you being here watching and all that, you make a difference to me. So I'm just gonna ink this up in a bit of Melon Mambo, and I'm gonna stamp this all the way to the left side of my scrap here. And I'm gonna grab my paper snips again, and we're just gonna give this a little bit of a angled edge. So I like to do this when I don't wanna cut an exact banner. It just gives you that beautiful look, right? Okay, so now we get to put this card together. So we'll bring back in our card base here. Let's start with the center of our inside, and we'll just work our way out. So we're gonna need one of those leaf die cuts, and I'm just gonna flip this over, and I'm just gonna dot my liquid glue, because we don't need a ton of glue on this, right? So I'm just gonna give it some dots on those leaves and a little tiny bit on our stem there. Then we're just gonna flip this over, and we're just gonna add this to our inside piece. Easy so far, right? Then we'll grab one of our mini glue dots here, actually two of them, and this is how I really love to use our mini glue dots. I like to tear them right off the roll. We're gonna take our smallest flower here, and what I like to do is just press whatever I want on a mini glue dot right onto that flap, and then peel it off, because I find that is a bit easier than trying to get them off themselves, right? And then now that it's stuck to my finger, let's see, we're gonna tape that again, and just on the other side, we're gonna do the same thing, and we're just gonna peel that off. So now I've got those two mini glue dots there. So it's gonna give us just a little dimension, but it's not gonna raise up our card. And then we're just gonna add that single smaller flower right on top of this little sprig. Okay, so that's our inside piece. We can go ahead and add our message there to our recipient. Now we're gonna add our full size piece. And so this one, I want it all the way to the right, because once we add our frame and our front piece and our card is closed, I want to see this peeking through. So I'm just gonna add some liquid glue to this piece. And we'll go ahead and put that right on the right there of our panel. Beautiful. Then we'll take our sentiment, add a little bit of liquid glue there. And we're gonna put this right over kind of the bottom of our leaf. You make a difference. Beautiful, right? Okay, so now let's get our frame piece, because that's gonna be the next piece we put on. And for this, we're gonna grab our Stampin' dimensionals. So these are just our foam dimensionals. And I'm gonna want this centered right over this black piece here and my top piece here, right? So I'm gonna put Stampin' dimensionals and I want them to be on my frame, but I don't wanna seal my card shut, right? So I wanna make sure that I don't put any Stampin' dimensionals on this right side of my frame. So how I like to do that is take my frame and flip it, so I know kind of where this piece is and where my frame is and where they kind of line up, right? And then I'll just take my Stampin' dimensionals. I know they're gonna go on this whole side. So we'll just go ahead and put maybe 3 of them there. And then we'll just add 1. So this is where I look at my lineup. It's probably gonna be right there. So I wanna make sure that my dimensional doesn't go over that edge. So we'll just get 1 of each of those on the top. And we'll peel those backings off. And I always need one of my hands to hold down my piece. I know when I was doing video with Brandy and she was taking them off with both hands. I was so impressed because I usually have to have one hand to hold my piece. I can't, if I try to do them with both, it lifts up, right? So now we're just gonna take our frame. You can see my dimensionals there. We're gonna line this up so that it's centered with our pieces. And we're just gonna stick that down. So we've got there and all along this side and nothing on this right side. So when we open it up, the card still opens and you can see that frame. Beautiful, right? So now let's decorate with all of our rest of our pieces here. So we've got our 3 leaves and we've got our 2 flower images. So we're gonna start with our leaves and I put one of them kind of right here. So we're gonna add dimensionals, but we're not gonna add them under everything. So we'll probably add 1 here and 1 here. So we'll grab these. So 1 here and 1 here. Peel those off. And we will go ahead and stick that, stuck to me, and stick that one. Now this one is loose, and so you could leave it loose or you could just add a tiny bit of glue here on our frame so that that piece, we'll just hold it there for a second, but that piece is now stuck to our frame. But they're still all the same height, right? Okay, so for our next one, we're actually gonna flip this one the opposite way. And so we're gonna put our dimensionals at the bottom of really all 3 of those leaves. So that's easy, right? So 1 at the bottom there, 1 at the bottom there, and 1 at the bottom there. And we'll peel those backs off. And then we'll flip our leaf around again here. And I just kind of lined up those stems. And so then with this one, I want to make sure that that is under. And so if you need to kind of move it so we don't have anything sticking out there, then you can do that. And then our last one is going to go right here. And so these are going to be glued. Only one that needs a dimensional is this one here. So let's go ahead and grab one of those, and I peeled the back already off so that I could hold that there. And then we'll just bring in our liquid glue again, and so just the top of this leaf, we'll hold that down. That's gonna stick to our frame. And a little bit on this one. So I'll just hold them there for a second. They can get stuck on for us, right? There we go. Okay, so now you've got all of our leaves. You can open that, nothing's sticking out, and our card still opens. That is the magic, right? So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to glue these to our single big flower. Now remember, it's got this little cutout in it, so I want to cover that up. So what I did was I just took my liquid glue and just put a couple of dots right along that little edge, and then I took my double connected piece and stuck it to that. So that way they're all connected and I have this beautiful little bunch of flowers. We're gonna flip that over and add a few dimensionals here. Now this is gonna cover all of that up, so you can put these on all over there. We'll just go ahead and add 4 of those. And we'll go ahead and take the backs off of this. Our card is almost done. So we'll just go ahead and put this, let's see, where do we want this? I'm just feeling where my dimensional is here. There we go. And we have our beautiful flowers on the center. And just to double check, there isn't anything showing through, so our card will open. Yay! Okay, so now we're gonna just finish this off with a little bit of embellishments. And so these are some brand new embellishments. They're called neutral matte dots, and they have white, basic beige, pecan pie, and the basic black. So we're gonna use basic black today. And we're going to grab a big matte dot, a little matte dot, and then one more big matte dot here, and I'm just using my Take Your Pick tool. This one's actually gonna go on that outer frame. So we kind of create that visual triangle effect with our card. So that is our card. Let's bring in our example. We did pretty good, I think. So tell me in the comments what your favorite part of this card is, what you love the most. Are you excited to try this? Are you gonna do some blending? I want to hear all the things. So let me come back so I can say hi to you all. And thank you so much for watching today. I can't wait to read your comments. I can't wait to see your creations. And as always, I so appreciate you watching, liking, and subscribing. You make such a difference, just like today's card says, right? You make such a difference. And I couldn't be more grateful for each of you. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you guys soon. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.